On this Sunday night, the world's attention hangs on every move at the entrance of a small cave in northern Thailand. Now that 4 boys are safely out in the first stage of a risky operation, we'll look at how they were rescued and what's in store for those still perched in the darkness below. Plus, treating the emotional and physical toll after 2 traumatic weeks.
Also tonight, pain and anxiety for the loved ones waiting above ground. The words of love and encouragement from families and the messages of hope from the boys themselves. A deeply human story unfolding before our eyes. This is The National.
This is the nerve center of what has truly become the international rescue effort. In addition to Thailand's own highly trained personnel, there are diving experts, military specialists, and engineers from Britain, Russia, China, Australia, the United States, and a dozen other countries. And this right here is a live look at the hospital where the 4 boys who were rescued are being treated. All there, of course, after a successful underground journey that really has hopes raised high. Some of the rescue workers are professionals, some are volunteers. All are desperate to get the rest of the boys and their coach safely out of that cave now that they know it can be done. Briar Stewart is in Thailand tonight. She walks us through today's successful Phase 1.
Above ground for the first time in 16 days, the first 4 boys emerged exhausted, disoriented, but alive. Phase 1 of the rescue kicked off this morning after a lull in the heavy rains provided a brief window of opportunity. The boys, all wearing full face masks, were guided through the flooded underground labyrinth, a treacherous 4-kilometer journey that took hours. But in the end, the rescuers exceeded their own expectations, bringing the 4 boys out in less time than practice runs had suggested it would take. The rescue commander praised the boys, the divers, and all those who have offered support. But he also sounded a note of caution. Restocking the cave with fresh oxygen tanks will take 10 hours at least. And with more heavy monsoon rains coming, there are no guarantees of success in what he calls the war against time and water. Even so, today was a victory. The boys were flown to the nearby city of Chiang Rai and then rushed by ambulance to hospital where an entire floor has been reserved for them. They'll be tested for malnutrition, dehydration, and crucially, oxygen levels. Officials have said levels in the cave have plummeted dangerously, possibly as low as just 15%. As for the families, joy and relief for relatives of the 4 boys now safely above ground, even though it will be several days before they can go home. For the families of those still trapped, the excruciating anxiety goes on. But meanwhile, down in the cave, the remaining 8 boys and their coach have been told of today's success, so they know the basic rescue plan works. But their challenge now will be to remain positive, as rescuers warn it could take up to 4 days to get them all out. And that's if the heavy rains hold off long enough. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Chiang Rai.
So joining us now on the technical challenges of these kinds of rescues is the Alberta Speleological Society's Jeremy Bruns. Jeremy, this rescue, I think we all understand, is a dangerous one for even the most experienced of cave divers. But can you walk us through some of the more specific challenges involved here?
Well, from what we can surmise from the diagrams that we've seen online, they're going to be passing through an alternating series of dry and wet passages. And that involves staging a lot of gear that they need to have ready to move their rescuees through there efficiently. So they have those hazards of having those set up properly, as well as traveling underwater in an overhead environment. They're going to be fighting current, lack of visibility, dehydration, and hypothermia all at the same time.
When we hear that in the last few days that they've been teaching the boys about diving, what does that mean exactly? What have they been showing them?
Yeah, well, the rescuers in this case are going to try to keep the workload on the boys to a minimum. So they're not going to be teaching them everything that a cave diver would need to know to cave safely. in an overhead environment, but rather how to use the full face mask that they've been talking about using, if that's the case, how to clear that mask if they get water in it, how to avoid panic, keep their heads on straight, so to speak, and to deal with any uncertain situations that they don't expect.
One last question, very briefly. What is the threat of panic?
A couple things can come up there. In particular, if you're hyperventilating, your CO2 levels in your body can get up to too high of a level, and that can cause toxicity and nausea. Also, like I mentioned earlier, getting too cold, hypothermia is a real threat because they're spending a long time underwater.
Okay, Jeremy Bruns, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Now let's look at who is rescuing those boys. A diverse group of divers and experts, 50 from other countries, assisting 40 from Thailand. The CBC's Paul Hunter has been looking at the international effort.
We are the first. Many people come.
With the eyes of the world watching, the world, as it turns out, had come to help.
How many of you? 13. Brilliant.
The English accent underlining the international effort behind the moment they were found a week ago. And indeed, up above, amid the 1,000 or so volunteers and rescuers from Thailand, a bevy of experts from around the planet who'd flown in to chip in. This Israeli diver helping with the rescue says he's never seen anything like it.
No, not really. And those are the best of the best in the world here right now.
From Australia, Japan, Myanmar, Laos, and dozens who'd flown in from a U.S. base on the Japanese island of Okinawa.
We are able to run 24-hour operations, and we have enough folks here to be able to assist the Thai authorities.
Tweeted Donald Trump today, very brave and talented people. Even though a full-on happy ending is still far from guaranteed, the international teamwork is a welcome respite at a time the world's headlines seem otherwise laden with international bickering and often an unwillingness to help those in need. None of that is lost on the foreign rescuers, but their focus remains on those boys. This diver flew in from China, which has also sent gear, including an underwater robot. We should be able to get them out, he says, but there are still many obstacles. Indeed, as the multinational effort continues, the real message from those who've come together to help, they've still got a job to do. Mikko Pasi's a rescue diver from Finland.
Everybody is focusing, getting them out, keeping them alive or getting them out.
A remarkable effort by those from all over, worth savoring as the work continues.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Okay.
So where you come from?
England, UK.
Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
For the families, you can imagine it's been an agonizing wait for a dangerous operation, but handwritten letters delivered from deep inside the cave provided a much-needed surge of comfort and optimism for loved ones above. Renee Filippone has more on that.
This video was taken days before the boys ventured into the cave. It was after practice. The 12 boys and their coach went exploring. This photo was taken that day. For 2 weeks now, family have been praying for their safe return. Yet hope remains for all, especially since notes from the boys and the coach were brought out by divers.
I felt better as my son said that he was fine and strong. I felt relieved after I had been worried about my son.
The boys' words, laced with humor, illustrate their spirit and concern for their families. 13-year-old Mong Kong writes, "Mom, are you well at home? I am fine. Please tell my teacher as well." Another, "I love you all. I am happy. The SEAL team is taking care of us very well." The youngest, an 11-year-old known as Titan, writes, "Don't worry, I'm fine. Please take me out to a fried chicken shop."
I just want to give him what he wants. Whenever he comes, we would go together. And before that, he and his aunt had agreed to have those fried chicken at KFC together.
14-year-old Adil Samon is the only one in the cave that can speak English. Born in Myanmar, he moved to Thailand by himself to get a better education. Prajak Sutham celebrated his 15th birthday last week while trapped in the cave. His family is camped outside waiting for news.
I want to see his face. I want to see how he gets out, how they get him out. I am so happy.
Grandma loves you the most in the whole world. I miss you dearly. I think every country, everyone helps the kids to get out.
Those thanks are also going out to the coach, who apologized to the families for taking the boys into the cave. A message to him from the parents attempts to absolve his guilt. It reads, "Every dad and mom isn't angry with you at all, and everyone understands and encourages you. Thank you for looking after the boys."
Okay, Renee, so about that coach, what do we know about him, the one, obviously, who took the boys into this dangerous situation?
Well, Rosie, Chanthawong is just 25 years old, and officials on the ground say he is the weakest in the group because he gave his share of food and water that they had taken in with him to the boys. And Chanthawong himself has had a very difficult life. He was orphaned at 10 years old when his entire family died of an epidemic in 2003. He eventually became a monk, but left a couple years back to join the Wild Boars as an assistant coach. And his friends say he was dedicated to those boys, many of them who come from poor families just like him.
Renee Filippone in Vancouver, thank you for that. For the boys who have been rescued, health is now the immediate focus. They'll have both physical and emotional issues after this traumatic time. We're going to speak to someone who's not only a paramedic and a cave explorer, but also someone who helped rescue a friend from a dire situation underground. A terrifying scene that was captured on video. Before we talk to Andrew Munoz, we want to show you a bit of his rescue.
Hands out. Yeah. Okay. No sudden moves, all right?
That's the voice there of Andrew Munoz, who's wearing the blue gloves, and he's talking to his friend Jason Story. You can't see him, but Story is underneath all that water, caught in an hourglass-like structure called Bastard's Crawl. Munoz helped get him unstuck, but the two then had to sit in darkness for 18 hours before they were rescued. And Andrew joins me now from Duncan, BC. So, Andrew, you've got this unique perspective as a paramedic and someone who's been in this kind of situation. These boys have been in the cave for about 3 weeks. What kinds of physical effects would they be experiencing around now?
Yeah, the physical effects are coming at them from all sides. We hear reports that they had very little food over the first 9 days. So these are young boys, young athletes with very little body fat. So they've probably gone into ketosis or started to cannibalize their muscles and their stores in their livers for energy. Compound that with very little fresh water. They made the decision not to drink the contaminated cave stream, which I think was a good decision, but that means that they're going to be suffering from dehydration. So reduced levels of total body water means that the kidneys start to take a real hit, and your body is unable to reabsorb some electrolytes, and that can cause muscle cramping and even start to affect the cardiac cycle. So the electrical system inside your heart starts to become pretty irritable as well.
Which I imagine would complicate the long exit that they have to do here, no matter whether they're athletic or not.
Yeah, absolutely. We heard reports just before the weekend where the commander was saying that these boys are not well enough to be rescued at this time. And that was the result of medical assessments by both physicians and nurses who were guided into that section of the cave. I think with the incoming rain and also the reports of dropping oxygen levels, the commander was sort of forced to make a decision without being fully comfortable. But we saw a successful rescue of a number of the boys, and we're hoping that all of them can come out safely.
So the 4 that are in hospital right now, what kind of treatment would you suspect that they would be getting?
They'll be getting intravenous fluid treatment and electrolytes. They'll have a full panel of blood work and labs done to test liver function, kidney function, test for insulin response. They're also going to have their lungs assessed. They were put on antibiotics inside the cave already, just as a precautionary measure against any respiratory system infections like pneumonia or bronchitis, and then also any cuts and scrapes that have been festering in this muddy cave environment for 9 or 10 days will need to be addressed as well.
I imagine the longer-term medical concerns might not be physical here and more psychological. I mean, you were in a situation for 18 hours. I imagine that affected you. What would you expect these young people, these kids really, are going to have to go through from that perspective?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to extrapolate what happened to me over a 24-hour period to now 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
We'll see these kids definitely having fear of the dark. I think there's going to be night lights in 12 or 13 bedrooms for the next little while. Every time it rains and any kind of fast-moving water, I think these boys will have an aversion to. We have had reports that there's mental health professionals have been on the scene for a number of days, briefing the family and the rescuers on how to approach the boys, not to push them for details too early about their experience, to allow them to internalize some of what has happened, and then to allow that to come out in its own natural way. But as these boys come to the surface, we need to realize that the rescue is far from over, that the technical rescue and first aid is done, but there's mental health first aid that's going to persist for some time.
Okay. Andrew, thanks for your perspective and your expertise tonight.
Thank you.
We have more ahead tonight on the situation in Thailand. You will hear from a witness on the ground. You'll hear her describe the moment they found out the first boys were rescued. And as this story develops throughout the evening, we will be covering it live here on The National. We're watching a number of other developing stories tonight on The National, starting in London, where police confirm a woman exposed to a nerve agent has died. They say the case of 44-year-old Dawn Sturgis has now become a homicide investigation. Tests show she and a 45-year-old man were exposed to Novichok. They believe this happened 8 days ago in Salisbury. That's where former Russian spy Sergei Skripal and his daughter also came into contact with the nerve agent earlier this year. Downing Street has pointed the finger at the Kremlin, saying it was part of an assassination attempt. Moscow denies this. The other victim remains in hospital in critical condition. Neither of the pair is believed to have any connections to Russia.
This is the most complex negotiation you could imagine.
That is David Davis, the minister in charge of Britain's exit from the EU. Tonight, we're learning he is leaving cabinet. Davis cited misgivings about his government's direction with Europe. After British Prime Minister Theresa May wrangled factions of her cabinet into a negotiating position considered by some Brexit in name only. Davis's departure is seen as a bit of a blow to that softer version of Brexit and to Theresa May herself. And the Canadian embassy in Haiti is temporarily closed due to some violent protests over the government's attempt to raise fuel prices there. Canadians are being advised to avoid all non-essential travel. Today, Foreign Affairs Minister Chrystia Freeland issued a statement calling for calm in the Caribbean country.
I'm very close to making a decision. Have not made it official yet, obviously. Have not made it final, but we're very close to making a decision.
And U.S. President Donald Trump will reveal his nominee for the vacant Supreme Court seat Monday night on primetime television. He says he has narrowed his list down to 4. It will be Trump's second Supreme Court appointment and could help shape the court for years to come.
We have a lot more ahead tonight. Parts of Japan are underwater. A record rainfall has triggered landslides and flooding. We'll look at the rescue efforts now underway.
And a little later, you'll remember his story. A Syrian refugee blinded by disease, hoping for surgery here in Canada. Well, tonight we can tell you he got it.
All right. Take your time.
Margins on car sales have become so slim that many dealerships now make more money on service and repairs than on new and used car sales combined.
You booked in for a peace of mind inspection, check your brakes.
What you may not know is that service advisors don't have to be mechanics, and the more they sell you, the more they can often make. Lucas Lung learned it firsthand in his years as a service advisor.
I would say 90% of these dealerships do work by commission. When you're a service advisor, you are a salesperson. This is how you make your living, right? So you have to upsell them. They come in for an oil change, you're upselling somebody.
Holy cow, $1,200. Marketplace heard many complaints from across the country, so we ran a series of tests. An expert
Hi, nice to meet you.
Pre-inspected this woman's car, then we asked a dealership for their diagnosis. It came by phone, get the brakes done.
So what he was suggesting is to replace the rear brake drums and the brake shoes. With parts and labor, it'd be about $621 plus tax.
Wow, is that something that I can think about?
But our expert rejected that.
When I had the drums off, everything looked perfectly normal for that age of brake.
Not only did the dealership recommend service that wasn't needed, they also failed to mention something that was. The largest recall in automotive history, the car's potentially defective airbag.
What does the law say about a repair shop telling you need to do something before you need to do it, or you don't even need to do it at all?
Repair shops cannot offer services that aren't needed.
Harry Malley is with Ontario's government watchdog.
They can't mislead you if it's a service that's not needed. They can't be like, this is needed to fix your car.
If you do 84 months...
Head to the dealership.
84 months, 7 year.
And you're likely to hear this pitch.
127 bi-weekly at 84 months.
Most of the 10 we visited only mentioned 7-year loans. Only rarely did we hear about what used to be the norm, 4 or 5 years.
That to me is short-sighted, just a recipe for problems.
Ontario's auto regulator doesn't much like that, thinking more options should be presented up front. But this auto expert cautions against using a long-term loan at all.
Long-term loans with the low monthly payments often encourage consumers to buy a more expensive car.
Just watch. A $20,000 car on a 5-year loan costs $154 bi-weekly. But a $30,000 car, it's just $11 more, as long as you pay for 2 more years. But beyond spending more, there are big risks with long loans.
The last thing you want to do is be in a situation where you're making payments on your vehicle at the 6th year or 7th year.
A staggering tragedy in Japan this weekend. Nearly 100 people are dead, dozens more missing, and millions have been forced from their homes after major flooding hit the southwestern part of the country. As Anita Bath explains, the washed-out roads and the damaged infrastructure are making the rescue and search operations especially challenging.
The rain has collapsed roads and submerged vehicles, trapping some people still inside. Rivers have burst their banks, breaking 2 dams in southwestern Japan, at one point stranding more than 1,000. The floods swept toward us, says one local resident. I rushed my family to get in the car. It was dangerous. I'm 58, and this is the first time I've experienced such a situation. Others are desperately searching for loved ones. We were hoping to find 2 people, but still can't find anyone, he says. In other areas, the landscape is littered with broken telephone poles and uprooted trees. Water levels reach 5 meters, forcing some people to the rooftops, desperate to attract rescuers' attention. Japan's prime minister has warned saving victims is a race against time as authorities issue new alerts and evacuation orders. That worries Vancouver resident Yayoi Hirano, who has family near one of the hard-hit areas.
I can't believe this is happening.
Her 89-year-old mother is relatively safe for now, but Hirano says the Japanese community here is turning to each other for support.
Everybody talking about, what about your family? They're barely kind of okay, and but the neighbor died and stuff like that.
Entire towns have already been knocked out by landslides. More than 50,000 rescue workers, police, and military are mobilized, but residents are left feeling ill-prepared as rainfall this heavy hasn't been seen in decades. Anita Bath, CBC News, Vancouver.
Up next on The National, the mission to save the remaining boys and their coach still trapped underground in Thailand. We will have the very latest developments.
But first, he regained his family when he came to Canada as a Syrian refugee. Tonight, that same journey has helped him regain his eyesight.
I told him that, do you see me? And he said, yeah, I see your, I see your beautiful teeth.
Forgive me for putting on these sunglasses, but they're actually bifocals and they're the only glasses I have with me. I don't like to see people wearing sunglasses in interviews. This is the only poem I can read. I am the only one who can write it. I didn't kill myself when things went wrong. I didn't turn to drugs or teaching. I tried to sleep, but when I couldn't sleep, I learned to write. I learned to write what might be read on nights like this by one like me.
Through his work, Leonard Cohen has cultivated a public persona just as interesting as his writing that deserves and has a new anthology. While Cohen prefers talking about the present and the future, this book has him looking to his past.
That early stuff was written between the ages of 15 and 20, you know? I think it's been downhill ever since, so I had a real gift then.
In 1956, while still an undergraduate at Montreal's McGill University, he won a national prize for his first book of poetry. His second won him international acclaim.
His blood on my arm is warm as a bird. His heart in my hand is heavy as lead. His eyes through my eyes shine brighter than love. Oh, send out the raven ahead of the dove.
Cohen quickly cultivated the reputation of a chronically depressed poet who was both hip and hypnotic. He dubbed himself the grocer of pain. And while the grocer of pain is still at his post, since 1967, he's been putting his words to music.
We're drinking and we're dancing. The band is really happening. The Johnny Walker wisdom running high. And my very sweet companion, she's an angel of compassion. She's rubbing half the world against her thigh.
At the beginning of his musical career, friends begged him not to sing. Cohen's voice is reminiscent of a truck trying to turn over on a cold Montreal morning. Not pleasant, but a familiar sound, and that sound was honored at the Junos earlier this year with the Best Male Vocalist Award.
You know, it's only in a country like this that I could get the Male Vocalist of the Year.
Last week, Cohen received a Governor General's Performing Arts Award. While he's a bona fide star around the world, musical acceptance here in North America is something new for Cohen.
This is my work. Writing is my work.
More on our top story tonight. Rescuers in Thailand have successfully brought 4 boys to the surface after more than 2 weeks trapped underground. The first phase of the operation was launched this morning after it became clear that heavy rains would hold off a bit. A mixed team of Thai and foreign divers led the boys through the 4-kilometer odyssey that took several hours. Leading weakened children who are poor swimmers through an underwater maze of jagged stone, it is staggering that this was the best available plan. But the phrase, between a rock and a hard place, has rarely been more apt. More rain, more water will only make this more dangerous. Rescuers have no choice but to roll the dice again. Those who remain are stuck here. They have a grueling journey ahead of them, at least 4 hours. It starts by plunging into an underground passageway. Immediately, the current will tug at them. That water is the color of coffee with cream, and lamplight barely pierces it. Each boy is accompanied by 2 rescue divers. One takes the lead, linked to the boy by tether, carrying his air supply. Another follows behind him, in part to ensure he doesn't stray. The passage isn't a straight line. There are blind alleys and dead ends. After a few hundred meters, there's the so-called Pattaya Beach. It's called that because usually there's a dry section here and an air pocket, but it also signals tough challenges ahead. The tunnel can narrow dramatically, including at what's described as a crisis point, where it juts upwards to an opening about half a meter across. That's all. The group will have to shimmy through, pushing their air tanks ahead of them. Eventually, the cave comes to a T-junction. The team will take a right. It's not that far now to Chamber 3, the location of the rescue operations forward base. but it's far from safe. On Friday, Thai Navy diver Saman Gunan was on his way back to that base when he lost consciousness, fatally. About 200 meters later, at Chamber 3 and beyond, conditions get easier, and with luck, those boys and their coach will then walk their final steps to freedom. So the big effort right now is to resupply the cave with fresh oxygen tanks for the next phase, bringing out the remaining 8 boys and their coach, but that's going to take some time. As the rescue commander indicated earlier, it's 10 hours minimum. That is if the weather cooperates, and it might not. More heavy monsoon rains are in the forecast, which could push back the projected 4-day timeline to get everyone else out. Worst case scenario, rescuers would have to try to supply them with food and oxygen until as late as October. We will have more on all this, including a glimpse of the first 4 boys reaching the surface in tonight's moment.
So while the world watches all of this with anticipation for the latest out of Thailand, we want to bring you up to speed on a story of a Syrian refugee to Canada. And we first told you about him in May. That was 2 months ago. This family, torn apart by the civil war, was reunited in Vancouver. Canada has, of course, taken in tens of thousands of refugees from Syria since the end of 2016. But this story, it stands out. Anas Gamus arrived here blinded by disease and in desperate need of treatment to restore his sight. He has since had surgery. So, did it work? Greg Rasmussen was there as the bandages came off.
Waiting for surgery, there's no hiding a sister's worry. Will it be eyesight restored, or will Anas Gamus be left blind forever?
So hi, Anna. Simon Holland. How you doing?
Soon, it's into the operating room.
So then we just open up the cornea now.
A delicate surgery to first remove the cornea ruined by disease and replace it with donated tissue. In the waiting room, his sisters. One is also blind from a similar disease. She arrived in Canada too late to have her eyesight restored.
She's a bit nervous about his surgery, and also at the same time she feels optimistic because we are in this country, great country like in Canada. That's why.
I was just going to.
Dr. Simon Holland has a connection to their home country. Part of a charity, Orbis, that worked on the Syria-Iraq border, training doctors and doing surgery.
I think Anas's case is very special for me. I have a great sympathy and not much understanding, but a great sympathy for the folks in Syria. It's kind of nice in a small way to reconnect, and it's kind of special to help a Syrian patient. Yeah, so he did very well. Yeah.
The operation over, still groggy, Anas is happy he's had the surgery he feared would never come.
He almost lost the hope before coming to Canada. That's what he was saying.
So we'll just get him to come over here.
The next day, the crucial moment. Did the surgery work?
Okay, good. So I'll just take his patch off here. He doesn't want to try and look into that. Should we have a look? All right. Take your time. Can I just try and open your eye? Does he see any movement there?
Yeah, 5.
Yeah, how many there?
2.
Okay, here?
1.
Great. So a bit better than before, huh? Yeah. Okay. All right. So he does seem
After 10 years of darkness, suddenly a world of light and fuzzy shapes.
A. هو بيقول A.
You can see the letters now, which he couldn't before. Probably hasn't got any significant problem with the back of the eye, so he should be fine.
At the beginning, he saw the 5 fingers of Dr. Holland, so he wasn't actually believing it at the first moment.
من الناحية العاطفية بصراحة ما بعرف لما شفت إيده هيك حسيت إني راح أبكي.
He was very happy that he was almost about to cry. Yeah.
It's a big shock for patients who haven't seen, who suddenly see. It's very normal for them to feel uncertain when they start to have some vision back, right? Yeah. Okay.
I told him that, do you see me? And he said, yeah, I see your, I see your beautiful teeth and white. He was to see all Vancouver.
A history marked by darkness on so many levels. A fractured family, civil war, blindness. A future now framed with hope, a new home, and light. Greg Rasmussen, CBC News, Vancouver.
Anis was able to come to Canada thanks to a donation by 4 Americans who wanted to do something to help refugees. We caught up with one of the sponsors, Tom Smith, to get his reaction to the good news about Anis's surgery.
I met Anis when he arrived at the airport in Vancouver. I think the date was May 8th. And I looked into his eyes and I thought, he's beyond help. And so I think it's a miracle that Dr. Holland was able to restore his sight. And I'm glad that Rick Wandoff, his wife Katie, and my wife Mary Lou and I had a very small part in this process. We're just grateful. We've done, over the years, we've done a number of different things, but none of them touched me quite like this.
One more note on this story. Smith says they're working with Immigrant Services Society of BC in hopes of bringing another Syrian refugee family to Canada.
Next on The National, the world according to Stephen Fry. The British comedian gives us his views on political correctness, the case for having a monarchy, and of course, Donald Trump.
He's the Trumpalo. He's like a Dr. Seuss character. The more you say his name, the bigger he gets. All you have to do to defeat him is never mention his name.
Being from here, you drive 2 minutes out of town and it feels like you're out in the middle of nowhere. We're surrounded by this vast wilderness all the time, and it's great to live in an environment like this because it just makes you feel a lot more either connected or grounded to the earth. My aesthetic is nature reclaiming architectural space. That's the majority of how I go about my installations, in that it's reclaiming its own sort of area, where it was intended to be. The issue that's been going on for a long time now was the Red River, the river system in Winnipeg, and how many bodies have been found within these river systems. Bodies of Indigenous people and non-Indigenous people both. Before I even started harvesting, within one of the first nights of arriving into Winnipeg, the first night, and I got settled in my hotel and I began to do a bit of research. A week or two before, there was a body found in the river. And I thought, how can I incorporate that? Or how can I talk about that? How can I present this idea to the public in a tasteful manner in order to generate discussion, or to hopefully raise awareness about it? And the idea of driftwood and things washing up on the shore came to mind. So that's where the idea came from. When I was installing and putting it all together, the way that it's constructed is that eventually, regardless of wherever I was working, that the whole installation would move. Say if I'm tying a knot to a branch way on the bottom left corner, the whole top right is going to move as well, so it was all connected, right? And this isn't something that I thought about until that started to happen, until I noticed that started to happen. Was that, to me, that sort of seemed like a metaphor for this sort of situation. That when something like this happens, it happens to the one person, that effect reverberates throughout the family. That effect then reverberates throughout the neighborhood, and then that effect reverberates throughout the community. Regardless of where this happens, everyone feels it. I hope that in the future that people in general, Indigenous people, Indigenous women, and everybody else doesn't have to live in fear.
여보! What's Netflix and that chill?
Sex.
How you know that?
Everybody know that.
I don't know that.
You is old. Young people talk. I listen, I learn.
And I told her.
Stream hundreds of shows for free anytime with the CBC TV app.
Bringing to life of Greek myths. It's called Mythos, using all the miracles of stagecraft, technology, and above all, meanness.
What can't be said about Stephen Fry, a modern-day Renaissance man? It would seem the British comedian has pretty much seen and done it all. And for the last 2 months, he's been living in Canada. His stage play at the Shaw Festival in Niagara-on-the-Lake, Ontario, is entering its final week. Over the summer, we are replaying some of our favorite interviews. Just before Fry's play made its world premiere in May, our Susan Ormiston got a chance to sit down with him to talk politics and political correctness. Here's another look at their chat.
Stephen Fry, comedian.
Your cheese, eh?
Actor.
No, no, by all things godly, no.
Author.
You will tell me what it was, or I will kill you.
TV host. Podcaster.
We are working together.
Advocate. Playwright. All of that and more. From Blackadder.
You think she'll laugh in my face? I'm too old, too crusty?
To host of QI. From West End to Broadway plays to documentaries, Stephen Fry has carved out a unique place in British culture and increasingly in America.
Is this where the party is happening?
Proper studio, isn't it? Thank you.
But for the next 2 months, he's taken up residence here in Canada, at Niagara-on-the-Lake, at the Shaw Festival. He's taken his latest book and turned it into a trilogy of one-man shows exploring Greek mythology. He visited us recently in Toronto to expound on the world according to Stephen Fry. So, Greek mythology, from your book Mythos. You're doing a world premiere here in Canada at the Shaw. What are you hoping to draw out of the Greek myths and put on stage?
Well, first and foremost, story. I mean, they are the most wonderful stories that I've ever heard, and they are primal in their absolute, their juice, their excitement, the fact that they're about people. And they answer questions about why and how we are, but always with the use of a story, which I think is, they don't lecture you, they're not moral tales, they don't say, and this teaches you this, although you can draw a moral from it if you want.
Stephen Fry.
Fry doesn't preach from a moral high ground. He has a healthy disdain for oughts and shoulds and political correctness.
I don't care what you call me, it's how we're treated that matters.
At the Monk debates in Toronto, he argued passionately with U of T professor Jordan Peterson that PC culture has gone too far.
Political correctness. Resist. Fight. If you have a point of view, fight it in the proper manner, using democracy as it should be, not channels of education, not language.
So what is it about PC that you don't like?
Sanctimoniousness, self-righteousness, preachiness, holier-than-thou-ness, piety. These are all things I've always hated. When I was growing up, you could argue that political correctness was not offending someone's religion by making a joke about it, or not saying a particular word on television because it was considered rude. And now it's a different set of things that is assumed to be politically correct, but it's the same idea going all the way back to what is heresy and what isn't. And I like to think that I'm an ornery sort of person, a contrarian, if you like, and that if I'd been brave enough in the 15th, 16th century in Spain, I would have been a heretic, just because
Probably
I wouldn't.
beheaded.
And yes, of course, the price of heresy was much higher than it is now. Price of heresy now is to be deplatformed or to suffer a Twitter storm or something. But my objection is simply that if you want to advance the causes that I would like to advance in terms of inclusion and diversity and equality for everyone in the nice, fluffy, gorgeous, liberal way that I think about these things, the wrong way to do it is to alienate those who are a little bit on the edge and aren't quite sure. By telling them they're speaking wrong, they're using the wrong language, they can't talk like that, you mustn't, you can't. Damn you, I will talk how I want to talk. Don't tell me how to talk. Don't censor me. Don't be a, you know...
But you can be questioned. You're not saying
of course,
no debate.
That's why I'm on the same side in the debate with someone with whom I probably share very little political...
I wanted to ask about that. Jordan Peterson, very controversial in this country, and you're on his side. In what way do you align with his views?
I don't align, as far as I know, with his views. I'm simply approaching the debate according to its proposition. And the proposition is that the other side, as you might say, are saying political correctness is just a phrase meaning progress. And I don't think that's right.
And what do you think about the price for some of those, perhaps to some, heretical comments? Twitter storm is real for lots of people, and you've been always an early adapter of technology. You love the iPhone. You said you'd never met a smartphone you didn't fall in love with.
Right.
But there's a big price these days.
Yeah.
What do you think of this whole community of social media and what it does to the fabric of our society and what it does to our capacity to think?
It's a really good series of questions, though, that takes a bit of unpacking. And one of the ways I'll approach it, funny enough, is to come back to Greek myth. When social media began, and I rushed on board very excited, I thought, you know, it's all gifted. This is the all-gifted world in which connection, information, education, art, you know, this is going to melt down barriers between people. There'll be no more tribalism, none of this sort of racist nativism.
Truly an open, free society.
And in the Greek myth, the gods punish man by sending an all-gifted woman. And the Greek for all-gifted is Pandora. And she came down with this jar that she was told not to open. But she couldn't resist it, and she opened the jar, and out flew illness, manslaughter, murder, disease, want, hardship. And from having it been a paradise, it seemed to become impossible. But that's the world we live in, a world full of ghastly problems. And the same happened with the internet. From having thought this is going to solve all our problems, everyone can communicate with each other, there'll be no misunderstandings, everything will be wonderful. Suddenly, one became aware that it was a Pandora's box that had opened, and out flew trollers and all kinds of nasty and terrible grooming and all the horrors that have come out of it. And one then thinks, oh, maybe it's just all worse now. Maybe it's terrible. I think it's settling down. I don't think people are thinking less or have less cognitive skills or less ability to relate than they did 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I don't think that changes at all.
But you've said it's settling down. It's settling down in America with the first real Twitter president who uses that as his personal tool. You've talked a lot about Trump. How do you see America today?
Well, it's terribly unfortunate, but I do believe in the wheel of fortune. I think things turn. It wasn't that long ago when it was Bill Clinton in America and Tony Blair in Britain. They were at the top of the wheel of fortune, the rota fortunae, as the Romans called it. And now they're right at the bottom. And in 10 years' time, it would be all... I mean, it sounds as if I'm not caring about the misery and the absurdity, the vulgarity, the gangster criminality and corruption of the Trump regime. And all of that is unquestionable. We all know it's true. And people who don't are just being blind and foolish. But it's also true that he is achieving what he set out to achieve and that the American economy is probably going to prosper enough for him to win the next election, whether we like to hear it or not.
Isn't it your view that you think that the media, for example, and many others are giving him exactly what he needs to feed it?
Of course they are. I remember saying to someone, do you know, they used to say of Hitler that he was the most photographed man in history. And I would say Trump is the most talked about man in history. Every single restaurant table, every single bar room, every single coffee shop conversation, you could just hear the word Trump, 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 Trump. And I said, he's the Trumpolo. He's like a Dr. Seuss character. The more you say his name, the bigger he gets. All you have to do to defeat him is never mention his name. Just don't talk about it. Of course, because he makes money, because he's clickbait, because you see Trump says and you immediately press the click because you want to know what Trump said. And that's our fault, not his. And particularly the fault of, if I count myself as vaguely leftish, which I do, I don't see the rise of Trump or the rise of Brexit in Britain, I don't see them as a triumph of the right, I see them as a failure of the left. And that's one of the reasons I think political correctness has some part to play in that.
Fry is fiercely British. He admires the British monarchy and he's close to the royal family. He considers Prince Charles a friend, and it's reciprocated.
I think that probably, Stephen, I may be entirely wrong, is really a writer who was added in a rather like a Renaissance man.
The marriage of Meghan and Harry, he says, reinforces the key to success of the monarchs.
One of the remarkable things about the British royal family is its adaptability, its ability to survive. And although it's preposterous, it works terribly well. Now, if you imagine that Trump every week had to go up Capitol Hill to a sort of white colonial building in which Uncle Sam lived, who was the embodiment of America, and Trump had to bow to him. So Trump wasn't the most important person in America. This embodiment, Uncle Sam, meant more than he did. It would just show him that he was the servant of his country. And that's what a British Prime Minister has to do. Every week they have to go to the Queen, and it just keeps the politicians in place because they've got this image, this personification of the entire country and its history, a living flag, if you like, who goes around in a coach. And it's kind of preposterous.
Kind of.
Yeah,
Many
it
would
is.
say it's completely old school and
It
should
is.
be abandoned.
Well, there you are. That's like political correctness. Should. There are no shoulds. I think if it works, it's very foolish to get rid of it, even if it's unreasonable.
Stephen, it's no wonder Prince Charles thinks that you're a national treasure.
Well, I know, I'm fully aware of how preposterous this is, and you're quite right, it is. But it works. It works for us. It adds to the gaiety of nations.
And does Meghan bring an interesting dimension?
Yes,
I mean, this is theatre.
That's
this
your
is a
question,
new piece
and I
of
was,
theatre,
yeah.
and
But also
somebody's
it's
going to pick up on
It's
that.
also a reflection on changes. You know, it's not just like, oh, I suppose we better allow it. It's kind of, everyone is thrilled for an injection of new blood, just in the sense of a new attitude, a new generational, a new way of looking at things. And I think that is what I meant about the adaptability of the royal family. They just somehow always seem to catch, and it's nearly always the women. I mean, our best monarchs have been Queen Elizabeth I and Queen Victoria and Queen Elizabeth II by far. It's clearly, maybe we should only have a queen rather than a king. I don't know. I shouldn't say that about my dear friend.
Your dear friend Charles.
No, quite, no, he'll be wonderful.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It was a real pleasure
Enjoyed
to
it.
meet you.
Thank you.
The Moment is up next. First, though, as we go to break, some really important news today. The Canadian singer Justin Bieber is now engaged. Reports say the 24-year-old popped the question to American model Hailey Baldwin while at a Bahamas resort. The two dated a couple of years ago and recently got back together after the Biebs and longtime girlfriend Selena Gomez broke up again. Hailey is 21 and the daughter of actor Stephen Baldwin. She was most recently linked to yet another Canadian heartthrob, Shawn Mendes, but the two claim to be just friends. While Justin's parents seem excited by their engagement, posting messages like, love, love, love. His fans, not so much, with one girl tweeting, if Justin Bieber and Hailey Baldwin are engaged, everything I've worked for since I was 12 was for nothing. I hear you, sister.
What happens when an asylum seeker gets picked up at the border? One of the first things that happens when someone crosses the border is they're taken to the nearest CBSA office, where officers determine whether they're even eligible to make a refugee claim. A claimant has to prove their identity, show that they're not a danger to the public, and demonstrate that they're not a flight risk. CBSA also runs health and security checks. Those include verifying identity through travel documents and biometrics like fingerprints and facial recognition. There are also criminal record checks through agencies like Interpol. Altogether, those checks can take more than 8 hours. So what happens if an asylum seeker doesn't pass those checks? That depends on the circumstance. They could be returned to the US if they have status there. If they can't be identified or have been convicted of a serious crime, they could be detained in Canada. Lastly, if they can prove they're not a flight risk or a danger to the public, they could be released on a promise to appear at a removal hearing. Now, if a claimant clears all those checks, they're released into Canada and required to file an asylum claim within 72 hours. But that's no guarantee that they'll get to stay. Of the nearly 24,000 asylum claims filed in Canada last year, only 44% were approved. The final step is an interview with a member of the Immigration and Refugee Board of Canada within 60 days after crossing. That's to determine whether or not the claimant meets the United Nations definition of a refugee. And the UN defines that as someone outside of their own country who can't return due to a well-founded fear of persecution due to race, religion, nationality, membership in a social group, or political opinion. If they qualify, they become refugees here in Canada.
According to polls, about a quarter of Canadians believe that immigration increases crime. But does it? Well, here's what the research says. Most research from Canada and the US suggests that not only is it wrong to suggest that immigrants increase the crime rate, they can actually bring it down. One of the major Canadian studies on this issue followed 2 generations of teens in Toronto, which, by the way, is one of the most ethnically diverse cities in the world. It found that if they'd immigrated as kids or teenagers, they were less likely to commit a crime than other Canadians. Even those kids who were the first generation of their family to be born here were still less likely to commit a crime than kids whose parents were born in Canada. And those conclusions are backed up by major American research, too. The authors of the study tried to figure out why. Their answers: commitment to school and strong family bonds, both of which made it less likely that teens would engage in risky behavior. Another Canadian researcher took a look at property crime rates across the country. She found that new immigrants didn't have an effect, but those who had been here longer, 5 years or more, well, they were actually associated with a drop in the property crime rate. Now, that same researcher argues that it's not just a case of more law-abiding people diluting the number of criminals around. She argues that immigrants can actually change the characteristics of a neighborhood or the behavior of the people in it. She calls it a spillover effect that can result in a long-term decrease. One group of researchers in the United States dug through the statistics there and found that immigrants are less likely to engage in criminal behavior and less likely to wind up behind bars. In fact, over the course of a couple of decades, while the percentage of foreign-born people in the United States has gone up, the violent crime rate has taken a plunge. Some researchers argue that this isn't just a coincidence, that immigration is part of the reason for that drop. One Canadian professor summed it all up this way: in just about every country, immigrants are less likely to commit crimes than the people who were there before them.
Four young boys in Thailand have finally been freed from the cave where they've been trapped for more than 2 weeks. Thai rescue workers successfully pulled off the first phase of the operation today, so the remaining 8 boys and their coach now wait for their turn. Meanwhile, Elon Musk is ramping up his efforts to help save the boys. This so-called kid-sized submarine is now on its way to Thailand after being tested in LA. Musk says the vessel can be carried by 2 divers and it can pass through narrow gaps in the cave.
Well, that looks terrifying in itself. Anyway, when officials announced that the first of the boys had been rescued, it was a scene of joy and relief around the world, especially, of course, in Thailand. And Lauren DeSica is a photojournalist with Getty Images. She was there in Chiang Rai, capturing the moment that the community heard the kids were finally out, and that is our moment of the day.
Honestly, today was probably the most powerful moment, seeing people's faces light up as the helicopters finally touched down. It was absolutely amazing. People just came rushing from nearby restaurants, from shops, holding phones up in the air, recording the moment that the helicopter was flying overhead and finally touched down on the airstrip. And it was dark, too. The sun had just set, so these families were waiting patiently for the boys to finally arrive. This has been a process where most people have been anxious, waiting, lots of sleepless nights, but this was a moment of just pure joy. I think at this point, people are feeling very hopeful. So I think the boys actually showing up, getting to the hospital, having some success is really making the community feel good about this.
Okay, well, I mean, it's good to hear the positivity there, but I know we were talking about this earlier. What I can't shake personally is listening to the logistics difficulties and imagining, how are they going to see each other? How are they not going to get entangled in the rope? It's terrifying.
Well, and the claustrophobia of it, which I would feel intensely, and I think we've talked about that. You talked about it. The panic that might ensue for those, teenage boys. Yeah. There's so much challenge yet to go. And I should point out, it said 9 o'clock. It's in the morning there, so things will start up again. And hopefully they'll get more out tonight.
Let's hope so. That is the National for July the 8th. Good night.
Good night.